Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. And also, happy International Women's Day. This is so exciting. This is really a day to celebrate because, as I said in the caption on my Facebook, women, we have come such a long way. We're able to vote now. We've made some amazing strides in government and just in so many areas. Plus, another area we've made absolutely amazing strides is in sports. And so that's what I'm going to be talking a little bit about today is how you can navigate around your training and improve your nutrition so that you are really maximizing your training and maximizing your athletic potential as well. So before I even start, I just want to introduce myself. Hello, my name is Drew Mulvey. I'm a certified dietitian nutritionist, board certified nutrition specialist, and certified integrative sports nutritionist. I am a precision nutrition level 1 coach, which is basically a holistic viewpoint of the athlete and giving you that. I'm also a certified leap therapist, which is a specific food sensitivity protocol based off of mediator release testing. It has been absolutely phenomenal for any sort of inflammatory conditions and also for recovery as a female athlete and as an athlete, as low grade inflammation can really inhibit your recovery, inhibit you from actually reaching your athletic goals. So, personally, I'm very passionate and work closely with youth and young adult female athletes to really transform their relationship with food, to empower them to make the correct fueling choices, and really help them to reach their athletic potential. Not only their athletic potential, but also being in the most optimal health possible. So, there's longevity in your sport. And if that feels like you, if there's been a lot of confusion around food, if you've been trying to do this and that and this and that from what influencers are saying, and you're really not reaching your athletic goals and you want to go further, then look no further. I would absolutely love to speak with you. Please sign up for an icebreaker call and let's start getting you on track towards achieving those goals that you do have. So, International Women's Day. Well, we've come a really long way. It's been maybe a little over 100 years since women have really started to get into sports. Now, before that, primarily many gyms were just for men. Primarily, a lot of universities were just for men. Voting was just for men. So, as I said, we've really come a long way. But with that, even in the past 100 years, there's been so much information. In fact, there's been a lot of influx of information regarding sports nutrition and training in general. There are improvements each year. Something might have worked 20 years ago, and now that's not really working. I know in endurance, I thought that it was going long distances were better for you to train, but actually now they're finding a different kind of rule where I'll go into a little bit where 80-20 is probably your better bet because then that is less stress on your body. It's just less wear and tear on your joints, and that's creating longevity in that sport. So there's been a lot of advances. And it has just been recently that there's been a lot of advances in sports nutrition, particularly for female athletes. Now, one thing that has been said, this has been said by Stacey Sims, this has been said by other people that this is really starting to come out, is that the female athlete is going to be very different than the male athlete. I shouldn't say very different, but there are differences. We have something that is known as the ovarian cycle. They do not. They are just responsible for their testosterone. Now, yes, when they are under extreme stress, there are certain things in their body that does happen and can manifest, and there are certain symptoms that we can have that can manifest. There's a female athlete triad and there's a male athlete triad, which is very much linked to relative energy deficiency in sport, which means that you are not fueling your body properly, and then that can lead to hormonal imbalances, and then that can lead to poor bone structure. So yes, that in and of itself, that the symptoms can manifest as the same thing. Obviously, for women, their menses would be gone. But with that, there's still a lot of wiggle room right now, especially when it comes to training and especially when it comes to nutrition, because we do have a cycle and we have two. Actually, we have more than just two different hormones, but those two main hormones that we are trying to work with at different stages in our cycle. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit to you about today, what your training should look like during those times in your cycle. Really, there's two cycles, or excuse me, there's two phases in your cycle, but really you should break them up into 4 different periods. No pun intended. Sorry. Had to throw that one in there. 4 different periods. because your body is doing different things during those times. So it's going to be important to modify things in the way that you're fueling your body properly and that you are training properly as well. And I will also help you to navigate around that when you are on a team sport, because it's going to be really hard for you to try to train individually when you are on a team. So with that, let's start at day 1. Day 1 to day 14 is known as the follicular phase. This is the time where you are actually getting your menses. So from day 5 to 7 is when you are menstruating. So you are losing a lot of blood. During that time, your estrogen and progesterone are still pretty low, and then it starts peaking at about like day 3, day 4, and you're really feeling sluggish. And why is that? Because estrogen and progesterone are responsible for serotonin and dopamine production. They're responsible for your circadian rhythm. Estrogen is responsible for your bone strength. But as you can see, they manipulate those neurotransmitters. Estrogen is also responsible for maintaining muscle mass too, so you might not really feel as strong during that time. Now, with the follicular phase, during that time, I would recommend adding in a little bit of beetroot powder beforehand, because when progesterone and estrogen are low, they actually help to increase blood volume. And when they're down, that decreases blood volume. So you want to try to, oh, other way around, increases blood volume. So you want to decrease it a little bit. So that's why you're bringing in the beetroot powder for like the first 4 days. That's also going to be at the end of your luteal phase too. The progesterone and the estrogen are low. So yeah, the first 3 to 4 days, and making sure that you are fueling properly, that you're getting the energy that your body needs. Your BMR is going to be normal from days 1 to 14. So that means that the calculations are going to be pretty accurate from there. I think I might have gotten ahead of myself because that it goes into the luteal phase as well. So that is day 1 to 7. Now, 7 to 14, your estrogen is starting to go up. Now, what happens when estrogen starts to go up? It helps you to be more stress resistant. So your body is actually utilizing carbohydrates much more effectively in this stage. So that's where you can get your HIIT workouts in. That's where you can get your strength workouts, because as I said, estrogen is responsible for that muscle strength. So the more good estrogen you have for that amount of time, I should say, when the estrogen is balanced during that time, you're going to start seeing PRs, and you're going to start being able to do those HIIT workouts, so those high intensity interval workouts. So for those of you that are endurance athletes, yes, that would be sprints, that would be fartleks, that would be working more in like zone 4 and zone 5 for that short period of time. And that's actually going to really help your aerobic system. So during that time, that's your window where you want to have the most intense exercise. Now, with that, since you're utilizing carbohydrates properly, you want to be able to fuel with those complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates around your workouts. So, having a little bit beforehand, I usually have like some sort of a fruit. Yet your body is a little bit more forgiving. So, if it's a little bit harder for you to get started in the morning or to have something in the morning, having a protein shake with some fats in it can help for a little period of time. I wouldn't recommend doing that for multiple bouts and multiple cycles. Your body does need those carbohydrates. So fueling with a little bit of carbohydrate or some amino acids in there. And then in the middle of your workouts, your body's actually utilizing those carbohydrates a little bit more. I would still recommend, if you're exercising over 60 minutes, that you're including a simple carbohydrate at that 60 minutes, at least 30 grams of carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates. So that would be about, I think it's 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. You can do that. There are plenty of whole food gels out there that you can have. I said whole foods. There's Huma. That's the main one that I use, is Huma. You can have a banana. I have gummy bears sometimes as well. I have the Black Forest gummy bears. So something that's going to be immediate fuel for your body. Now, afterwards, making sure protein is going to be very important during this time, and it's going to be very important during the next time too. It might be a little bit more important during the luteal phase, but during this time, you still want to make sure that after those workouts and after those tough workouts, that you are supplying the body with the raw materials that it needs. So really including those carbohydrates and those proteins. So at least 20 to 30 grams of protein after you're working out, with about 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates in there. That's going to really help you to replenish. I know it's usually like a 1 to 3 to 1 to 4 ratio. So if it's the 1 to 3, so that's 20 grams of protein to like 60 grams of carbohydrates in there. That would actually really significantly help you with your recovery and having those carbohydrates around when you're working out, because they're going to help you with your fueling and they're going to help you with your recovery too. So there's wiggle room around that time. Even if you want to time like more of your carbohydrates around when you're working out, that will help you to recover better because carbohydrates actually help you to spare proteins. Now, during this time, I do want to say that you have to be a little bit cautious of some explosive movements. Yes, you can do them, but because estrogen is high, it might make your joints like a little easier to move. So that's usually when some injuries occur. So just keep that in mind that you are doing some strength, that you are keeping the right form, and that you are in control, that you're not just doing ballistic things and you're losing control of your core and your glutes. So strength training, very important during that time. Sprints during that time. Normally when I write up my training plan, that's the time where I'm getting heavier weights in and that I am getting my sprints in for my endurance work. All right, so then there is ovulation. And ovulation, that's where estrogen still starts to peak and your testosterone comes up a little bit too. Women, we need to have testosterone. Yes, it's our androgen, but testosterone is responsible for maintaining our muscle mass. It's responsible for our brain focus. It's responsible for energy. It's responsible for several different things. And if your testosterone is low, you're not going to have very much energy. It's going to be very hard for you to retain muscle mass, and muscle is a very metabolically active component of your body. It uses up a lot of energy. I wasn't going to use the other word, but it uses up a lot of energy. So the more muscle that you have, the better your metabolism is, and the better you're able to regulate blood sugar as well. So it's important to keep that. Where was I going with the protein? Oh, the testosterone, right? So your testosterone starts to peak. And then I have just been digging deeper into this, that this is a time when you're the most creative too. So for me, I guess I could get creative with some of my workouts, but in life, this is where you can do some of your best work. That's where you're creating, maybe you're creating a course, maybe you're creating, something like a masterpiece. Like if you're an artist, you're doing something like that. So really, really utilize that time. And you're joyful too, because estrogen really helps with the production of serotonin. So your serotonin is higher during that time. Now, after ovulation, what happens is that the estrogen starts to decrease and then the progesterone starts to come up. Now, with that shift, your body is a little bit more in catabolism, so in breakdown mode. Your body temperature goes up during this time because you weren't preparing the body for having the egg come down. So the egg actually goes into the uterine lining, and sometimes some people get discharged, or not discharged, but they sometimes get spotting during that time because the progesterone does elevate. But what's happening during that time, not only is your body temperature going up, but think about it, your body needs more energy to make that particular heat, right? Your body, you need coal in the fire to make something hot. Exactly. So your BMR can increase between 40 to 200 calories during that time. Now, since progesterone is a little bit more catabolic, you're going to need a little bit more protein during that time. So I'd say about maybe 10 grams more of protein. And also during this time, your body's not necessarily utilizing carbohydrates as efficiently. So making sure that you are having those carbohydrates around your workouts, this is when you really have to have a carbohydrate beforehand. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So still incorporating some fruits, so still incorporating, I actually have some brown rice cakes sometimes because there's not that much fiber in it. Applesauce, cherries. Cherries would go both ways because their antioxidants in it will actually help to decrease any sort of um, compounds that could be generated from exercise. Now, with that, you don't want to overdo it on the antioxidants because your body actually needs to have that inflammation for it to repair, or else it will be blunted. So you need to have a healthy amount there so that your body is not going to end up not being able to recover, because you need that inflammation to recover properly. And I do have to say, for that, pineapple is excellent. It has bromelain in it, that it actually helps to stimulate the good inflammation around your muscles, and that will help you to recover much better. That can even be used during your workouts too. So in between or after your workouts or even before your workouts, pineapple is fantastic if you don't have any issues with it. Now, during this time when the estrogen, actually, when the estrogen and progesterone are coming up, it would be good to sodium, I shouldn't say sodium load, but add a little bit of sodium in the morning to your drinks. That's going to help to increase the blood volume a little bit just because of what those two are doing. So normally what I do is I have a little lime in water and some sea salt. I do that every morning now before, I shouldn't say before I get out of bed. That would be kind of hard. Right after I get out of bed, first thing in the morning, and that's when I work out, is the first thing in the morning. You have a little bit of extra sodium in there. If you're working out in the afternoon, then maybe adding just a little bit of sodium to your snack before you're going into working out. And that's going to be really important too, is making sure at least a half an hour beforehand. That's when you can have a simple carbohydrate. About an hour and a half beforehand, that's when you have like a carbohydrate and a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat. And then depending on when you had lunch or when you, yeah, when you had lunch, then that could be your lunch and then that could be your snack. So it just depends on the timing. But always make sure that you are fueling properly. Make sure that you get that extra protein in during the day, and that protein, this is a must after you work out. Get that protein in and those carbohydrates, and then carbohydrates even intra-workout as well. So instead of waiting that 60 minutes, maybe incorporating some between 30 and 45 minutes if you're at 60. They do say about 90 minutes of steady state cardio, but depending on your power output, you could be utilizing even more carbohydrate during that time. So making sure that you're sipping on something that could be like, there is a Body Armor that's an electrolyte drink as well as a carbohydrate drink. That the electrolytes in there, I do want to say that after about an hour, you're losing sweat. So you could lose between, it could be a lot depending on what your sweat rate is. Your sweat rate, you can measure, it's a different measurement. But making sure that you're getting some electrolytes, so some sodium in there, a little bit of maybe some potassium and magnesium, but the sodium, because that's what's being lost through your skin. So electrolytes are going to be key during that time as well to help you with your recovery. Now, what's going to happen during that time? Actually, I'm going to backtrack. We're going to go back to the follicular phase because I forgot to say something. After you menstruate, you have lost a lot of blood and your body's going to need a little bit more iron. So during that week that is before ovulation, so 7 to 14 days, that's when you're going to want to have a little bit more iron. So have some of that red meat, making sure you're pairing those iron-rich sources with a source of vitamin C, because the vitamin C is going to help with that iron absorption. And then also from plant-based foods as well. So your green leafy vegetables are a really good source of iron, as well as black beans and lentils are an excellent source of iron. But again, with those in particular, you do want to pair with vitamin C because they're not as readily absorbable. Now, when we're going to come back. So the luteal phase, once you start, you're going to want to increase your caloric intake about 440 to 200 calories, because your BMR is going up and you're generating a lot more heat. Making sure that you are staying hydrated during this time, because when your body temperature goes up, you need to make sure that there's water coming in to kind of keep that level. When your body I don't want to say overcompensates, but when it's getting hotter, then your blood pressure is also going up too, and that's going to make you fatigue a lot sooner. So during this time, because you're fatiguing a lot sooner and your body is not utilizing carbohydrates as effectively, you're not necessarily going to have their best strength gains during this time. So this is the time where you want to focus more on that steady state cardio and more of like that maintenance. You can still lift heavy. During this time, I've been doing a lot of hypertrophy during my training sessions. This is where you'd want to be on kind of like the upper end of the hypertrophy. So like the 12 reps per set. And then making sure that if you do that, or if you have that strength, you're going to have to take a little bit more of a rest break just for your heart rate to come down and making sure that your body is going to recover properly. Now, when it goes into the fourth section of your luteal phase, this is where things are going to start changing a little bit. This is your body preparing for your menses, and that's when people start to get kind of lethargic, they're moody, they're not feeling well, they're starting to get symptoms of PMS because your body's actually starting to produce prostaglandins, which are inflammatory proteins just for you to have your menses. So with that in mind, there are certain nutrients that are going to be key during this time, increasing sources of B6 and magnesium and omega-3 fatty acids. There's also another fatty acid that I'm going to discuss with you too. So the omega-3 fatty acids, that's going to be from fish. That's also from plant-based sources such as chia seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, and flax seeds in particular. They're really, really good. Even avocados have a little bit of omega-3s in them. And then walnuts, that's going to really help to decrease those prostaglandins so you're not experiencing so much of those PMS symptoms. And then that's not going to hinder you from working out, because sometimes I've seen this actually with some of my high school girls that they haven't been able to work out for a couple of days because their PMS symptoms have been so bad. So incorporating a little bit more fish during that time, making sure that you're getting in also your green leafy vegetables have omega-3s in them. Getting in those nuts and those seeds are going to be really important to just decrease any sort of inflammation that could be being produced in your body. Another is B6. So B6 is very important for your adrenal health. It's very important for several different processes in your body, but it's important for the production of serotonin and melatonin and dopamine because your estrogen and your progesterone are starting to come down. So that's where you want to add that B6 in. That's really going to help with your neurotransmitters. It's going to help to calm your body down as well. So that's going to be in bananas, sweet potatoes, avocados, chocolate actually has B6 in it as well. So including some of those foods, plus they're very alkalizing. And when you're eating those alkalizing foods, that's also going to help to decrease that inflammation and those prostaglandins that could be produced. Another nutrient that's going to be important is magnesium. Now, magnesium is important for, uh, well, decreasing muscle cramps. I was just going to say smooth muscle contraction, but just relaxing the muscles, and it also helps to relax the central nervous system too, because your body might be a little bit more on edge, and you're a little bit more on edge. You wonder why you crave chocolate during this time? Chocolate's a really good source of magnesium, so your body is craving that. Now, other sources of magnesium are anything that's going to be green. No, and I don't mean green Skittles, and I don't mean green gummy bears. Anything that is green that comes from the earth, broccoli, avocados, your green leafy vegetables are going to be super important during this time as well. Pumpkin seeds are a very good source of magnesium. Chocolate and buckwheat, that's a gluten-free grain that you can have fun with and play around with that. It's a little bit bitter, but it also is a very good source of rutin, which is a very, very potent antioxidant and will be great for recovery. So during this time leading up to your menses too, what happens with red meat in particular, that it may increase arachidonic acid. Actually, a lot of the animal proteins can increase that, but having more of a vegetarian diet, so sticking more to like those leaner meats and then having some of those vegetarian meals in there, decreasing some dairy. By decreasing that dairy, then it helps to decrease any sort of inflammation that could be coming on. There is some grass-fed dairy. There are some alternatives like grass-fed whey protein. That's completely fine. But you want to make sure that you're decreasing any sort of inflammatory proteins that could be being produced during this time. So that would mean what I've been having are some of the things that you can have, adding in some lentils, adding in some beans, adding in some whole grains in there, and then really, really, really bumping up the fruit and the vegetable intake because you're going to get a lot of antioxidants out of that. Particularly during this time, vitamin A is going to be very important too because that helps to protect the ovaries and that just helps to prevent those PMS symptoms. Vitamin A is very, very important for that. Getting a little bit of carrot juice. So you can get organic carrot juice and just sip on that, 8 ounces, sip on that. That's going to be really great for antioxidants as well. Now, during this time is where you kind of want to slow things down a little bit. So this is where you're going to want to stick to more like zone 1, zone 2. Lighten up the weights a little bit. You're really not going to be feeling like you're strongest during this time, and take a little bit more time for recovery if needed. Now, I have done workouts before where they've been a little bit more intense, but you want to make sure, again, you're including those carbohydrates. If you can't change up your plan because you're on a team, including more carbohydrates during your workout. So juices, sports drinks. You can make your own sports drinks where it's a juice and then you add some electrolytes in there and then you add some maple syrup and maybe a tiny bit of coconut water in there. And you sip on that. That's immediate fuel for your body. Now, as I was saying beforehand, this is where you might not want a sodium load, but you're having sodium throughout because your body might be getting dehydrated. Okay, again, hydrating. Make sure you're hydrating by adding in a little bit of source of like nitric oxide beforehand to help to dilate those blood vessels. It's going to help with better blood flow. It's going to help with better oxygen exchange during that time so that you're not fatiguing as quickly. I notice my blood pressure tends to go up and I fatigue quicker during my luteal phase. So there's some merit to that, that when you're feeling great one week and then you're not feeling so great the next week, it's because of your cycle. Pretty crazy. But then those things break a little bit once you do get your menses and then your BMR goes back to normal and you're able to kind of utilize those carbohydrates a little bit more. Stick more to like complex carbohydrates are in during this time. Decrease the sugars a little bit, especially leading up to your menses because that can be a little bit more pro-inflammatory. But simple carbohydrates are fine before, during, and after a workout because that's going to help with recovery. So, with that in mind, that is wrapping everything up for how to train and how to fuel the female athlete. I'm very passionate about this. I have utilized this in my life, and I can see that if we can start to find more research on this and actually implement this in our female athletes, that we are going to see not only athletic potential being reached, we're decreasing oxidative stress on the body, so we're creating longevity and really optimum health. So that's something that's on the brink. I know Stacy Sims is actually talking more about this. For those of you that are in menopause, you're kind of in like that fourth stage, that fourth quarter, so like the second week of the luteal phase. That's when you're going to want to incorporate that beetroot powder. That's where you're going to want to incorporate those carbohydrates around when you're working out, since your body might not be utilizing them as well and your body's a little bit more catabolic. That's another thing, is adding in some you can add in some spices, but things that are going to help to calm your system down. Carbohydrates help that. There's adaptogens that are out there. Cinnamon, turmeric, and ginger are fantastic during that time, not only as anti-inflammatories, but they are also adaptogenic herbs. Or they're spices, excuse me, adaptogenic spices, so that they help your body to cope with the demands that are being placed on it. And I recommend that to a lot of my clients. Now, also, what's going to be really important? Making sure you are meeting your energy needs. There we go. That's the bottom line. Making sure you're meeting your energy needs and increasing it a little bit during that luteal phase so that your body's going to be recovering properly. You're going to be training like a lady warrior that you are, and you're going to really reach your athletic goals. And if you feel like you have had a lot of confusion around this and this was like really eye-opening right now, or you really feel like you're not reaching your true potential, you're not really reaching your athletic goals, your energy and stamina, I'd really love to speak with you. Please sign up for an icebreaker call. Let's go over your goals. We'll start going over a little bit of your nutrition so that we can really optimize it for your sport and you can really start reaching those goals and unleashing the beast within, the lady warrior within. All right, so with that in mind, there was a lot that I talked about today. So some of the things that you want to do around your cycle is switching up the training a little bit from the follicular phase into the luteal phase. Your body is much more forgiving during that follicular phase. So really that second week, that's where you really want to get the best bang for your buck, the best workouts in. So strength training, you're going to have your best lifts, and then you're going to be able to do those high intensity workouts too. Your body's much more forgiving. And then during the luteal phase, you want to increase your nutrition a little bit. You want to make sure that you are focusing more on training. That could be more like zone 1, zone 2, steady state cardio. But if you can't switch that, making sure that you're incorporating more carbohydrates during the time before, during, and after so that your body is going to recover properly and you're able to have a fuel source to be able to continue and not fatigue as soon. And important, it's probably going to be more important to hydrate in the luteal phase, even in the follicular phase. You want to hydrate no matter what. Speaking of hydration, I don't think I had one sip of water throughout that whole thing. All right. Well, with that in mind, again, my name is Drew Mulvey. I'm a certified dietitian nutritionist, board certified nutrition specialist. I am a certified integrative sports nutritionist, which is really taking an integrative approach. And with all those, I am technically an integrative health practitioner for athletes in general. I'm a precision nutrition level 1 coach and a certified lead therapist. That one is amazing for athletic performance and an amazing food sensitivity protocol. I'm just getting to the tail end of it, and it's been absolutely amazing. So if you have any questions about that, I would absolutely love to meet with you. Again, you can sign up for an icebreaker call, and I can give you a little bit more information on that food sensitivity test. I am working close with athletes, youth, and young adult to really transform their relationship with food, to really empower them to utilize food as fuel, and to really transform them so that they're reaching their athletic potential and they're reaching their optimum health too, so that they have longevity in their sports. I'm really passionate about that. A lot of you know my background, that I had so many health conditions. I used to have bulimia when I was a college athlete, and then had just autoimmune conditions, and I suffered from a lot, but I've really come a long way. And now with this new information about nutrition and training around your cycle, that's going to be a game changer for these female athletes. And I would absolutely love to meet with you and get a game plan together with you so that you are really making the most of your training and your nutrition around your cycle. All right, everybody. Well, I just thank you so much for coming in today. If you have any questions, please feel free to DM me. Please check me out on redeeminglifenutrition.com. There is a March challenge, a March performance nutrition challenge that is going on, where we're utilizing seasonal produce. It's also National Nutrition Month, so we're going to have some fun with some recipes. It is St. Patrick's Day, so let's get green this month, which really start to utilize all those green foods. And then how we're incorporating that into our training. So go to the Facebook group, Redeeming Life Nutrition, enter in and start contributing to, because the one who contributes the most with their recipes, with the challenge, and even sharing your feats from training, you are going to receive a prize at the end. Very exciting. All right, so make sure, again, that's Redeeming Life Nutrition on Facebook. Check me out, redeeminglifenutrition.com. I have a blog post, got a lot of fun stuff. And if you really feel like you want to learn more about this, and you really want to optimize your nutrition, you want to optimize your training, you just want to optimize your health because you've been really struggling with your health and your energy and stamina, and maybe you're getting caught up in the fluff of all the different information out there, let's meet. Let's talk about your goals, and let's get you achieving them. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.